Hi guys, my name is Nonima Tigela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about the substitution, the confession, and the collapse on the Senzo Meyiwa trial. Before we do that, guys, please make sure you do not forget to like, to share, to comment, and most importantly, please make sure you are subscribed on the channel. Please make sure you are watching the videos up until the end, and you are watching the ads that are coming through. When you are doing that, you'll be supporting this channel financially and in numbers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Now, we all know that every major miscarriage of justice follows the same pattern. First, the investigators choose suspects. Then when the suspects don't fit the facts, they start bending the facts to fit the suspects. And when that still fails, they manufacture confessions. It's something that seemingly is a pattern that happens here in South Africa, here and there, or perhaps all the time, I don't know. But let's get into this video and find out what's going on. So today we expose how the substitution of suspects in the Senzo Meyiwa case led directly, inevitable, to the confession scandal that is now poisoning the trial. This is not a coincidence. This is cause and effect. Okay, so let's deal with the original sin, the wrong man. Okay, now let's rewind a bit. Before the accused, you see, in this case of Senzo Meyiwa, the five men that you see before them, those are the ones that you always see in court today. Okay, before the alleged confessions, before the so-called breakthrough, there were other suspects. There were other suspects. We're going to focus on the ones that these ones replaced. There was another suspect before. We will do another video for that, but we will focus on the ones, but there was suspects prior these ones that are on the dock right now. There was Zamoku Hlembata. There is one that Sifiso Meyiwa refers to that went to Pietermaritzburg court. And then there is the one that we are going to talk about. And then there is this one that are in court, four that we know of. Perhaps there could be others that we are not aware of. Okay, anyway, let's move. So currently, there were other suspects, the Buthelezi brothers. Those are the ones that we are focusing on this video. This is not speculation. This is Son's testimony. Ntuli, you remember the first day? Was it the first or the second day? They appeared in court. I'm not quite sure, but I believe it was the first time. The first time they appeared, 27 October 2020. Yes, I think that was the first time. Sorry, Ntuli told the court in Boksburg that Brigadier Bongani Gininda went to Kalakabusha prison with one intention, to charge the Buthelezi brothers for Senzo Meyiwa's murder. He even said, now I don't understand why we are here, because initially he was there and I was there with them. He was there to charge the Buthelezi brothers. What is this now? That single fact destroys the official timeline. And at this point, we need to find out, when did Gininda go to Kalakabusha? Was it early June? Was it before he arrested accused number one? Was it after accused number one was arrested? Was it prior Gwabini's arrest? Like, there's a lot of things that one still needs. There are timelines there that we need to find out things or hear things and have an understanding of what is happening. There's a lot there. And also, the other thing that we could also try to or find out is whether these Buthelezi brothers that were with Ntuli, will they be willing to come up front and tell us the story when Gininda arrested them? Because there is timeline issues here. Anyway, let us move. So, because it proves something the state never wanted us to know. There is something that they never wanted us to know. Gininda already believed he had the killers when he was looking for Buthelezi brothers. Why the Buthelezi brothers? Because the case started as robbery gone wrong. You would remember. So maybe he wanted to pin them with that. Phosphorus, known robbery crews, local intelligence files. The Buthelezi brothers perhaps fit that narrative perfectly. And also the Buthelezi brothers are known for being hitmen. It's a lot. They were not random people. They were not speculative. They were primary suspects initially. Okay. Now, but then Gininda hits a wall. We will still hear this when the time comes. Gininda find out from the Buthelezi. Actually, my assumption is that Gininda found out. I think Buthelezi brothers' visit happened after accused number one was arrested, and after accused number one was sent to Mboto for the so-called confession. Yes, I believe that's when all of this was happening. I think they got accused number one, and then they went to Qalakabusha for these guys. Maybe that is how the timeline is supposed to be. But if it happens, the defense decides, let's bring the Buthelezi brother that is still alive. That's when we will find out the timelines. That is exactly when we will find out the timelines. Because now, Gininda find out, I think after he already made, I choose number one to be part of the so-called confession that has Buthelezi brothers. And I want to believe he also dealt with all of that after why choose number one was taken to court in Tembisa, and he spoke in that courtroom and said, take me to prison. These ones are beating me up. And he was taken to prison. And then now he went to look for Qalakabusha. He went to Qalakabusha to look for the Buthelezi brothers. And that is when he found out that no, 2014 October, I was in prison. So you don't dare. You don't do that to me. I was in prison. That is when he found out. That is when he found out, and everything now broke. And now he had to look for someone who is going to fit that's when Danzig came in, and then the other accused came in like that. Anyway, the current accused came in after he found out that no, Buthelezi was in prison at the time, so there's no way that the Buthelezi brothers are going to fit this. Yes, we will find out perhaps. Anyway, so when Gininda hit a wall at Qalakabusha prison, he discovered the fatal problem. The Buthelezi brothers were already incarcerated at the time. They could not have been at the scene. The case theory collapsed instantly, whatever he was trying to do with them. Sorry. This is where a lawful investigator does one thing: stop, reassess, rebuild from scratch. Gininda did none of that. Instead, hang on, let me drink water quickly. I'm going to bring it for you. Instead, he took the unforgivable step. I'm going to tell you what he did. There is no elimination report for the Buthelezi brothers. No ballistic exclusion. No formal clearance. Yes, their names remain in the docket. So what happened? The state substituted suspects. Didn't do the above that I just said. They substituted suspects instead. Same robbery narrative, same alleged roles, same story structure. Different human beings. This is the moment the case became irreversibly contaminated. I don't think he calculated that part. Because once you substitute suspects instead of disproving originals, you are no longer chasing the truth. You are protecting a theory. That is exactly what Gininda did there. And now we are getting to understand why substitution requires confessions. Do you understand? This is how we got to these confessions. Zikantanzi, because there was a substitute. And I believe accused number one was already in prison for them to change their statements now. Here is the legal reality the state could not escape. Substituted suspects do not come with evidence. No forensics, no eyewitnesses, no ballistic you can trust. So what do you need? A confession. Not because it's true, but because it patches the hole. And there was a big hole. And this is where the confession scandal enters. Confessions are not neutral. They are solutions to investigative failure. And once the Buthelezi theory died, the state needed a new spine for its case. The spine became the alleged confession from Undazi. And then there was a confession problem. Let's examine what kind of confession we are dealing with. Taken after years of the murder, number one. Number two, there are people, sorry, oh, what's wrong? It was taken after years of people that were in custody, which is Mthobisi Mncube, Mthokoziseni Maphisa, Fiso Kuhlentulo. They were in prison already. Don't you think when they got arrested, they could have come out? And it was taken without contemporaneous corroboration. Taken after the narrative was already fixed. Taken from substituted suspects. That is not discovery. This is retrofitting. The confession doesn't lead the investigation. The investigation leads the confession. But in this case, Now we get people that are saying we were coerced. So we are dealing with a coercion context, not coincidence. There is no coincidence here. And ask yourself this, why did the confession only appear after the Buthelezi brothers collapsed, the forensic case fell apart, the ballistic chain broke, the scene contamination was exposed? Because confessions are not about truth. They are about closure. That is why. And the law does not forgive that. South African law is crystal clear. A confession must be voluntarily, independent, corroborated, free of contamination. And these confessions that Ugininda is hanging on to, HH and JJ exhibits, all of the above, they have issues with it. But when suspects are substituted, contamination is guaranteed. Why? Because the confession becomes the bridge between a failed theory and a salvaged case. That is textbook conceived context. That's exactly what is happening. Now let's deal with a psychology of a broken case. Once investigators commit to a narrative, doubt becomes the enemy, contradictions are suppressed, evidence is interpreted, pressure increases. This is how false confessions happen, not through torture alone, but through desperation. This is exactly what is happening in the Senzo Meyiwa case. And the court should not ignore this. The trial is not about did they confess. The real question is, why did the state need a confession at that moment? And the answer is simple, because the original suspects were wrong and the state never recovered. And without the domino effect, if the Buthelezi brothers were wrong, then the investigative method is flawed. If the method is flawed, then the substituted suspects are unsafe. If substituted suspects are unsafe, then the confessions extracted from them are tainted. And if the confession is tainted, the entire case collapses. This case did not fall in court. It failed at Alagabusha prison. The moment Gininda discovered the wrong men were targeted and chose the substitution instead of truth, everything that followed became contaminated. The confession did not solve the case. It exposed the panic. and panic has no place in justice. This is why the Senzo Meyiwa trial feels unstable, because it is built on a foundation that was never rebuilt, only patched. Substitution led to confession, confession led to collapse, and now South Africa is watching a case unravel, not because of clever defense tactics, but because the truth was abandoned years ago. Now, I want to hear your views. Let's talk with comment section. Please drop your comments there. Let me know what you think about this. I'll see you on our next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.